Before we get too far into the video, we want to give credit to Clarence Larkin for his great works on this subject matter, as much of what we are considering here today is a result of his labors in the Lord Jesus Christ. When the seventh trumpet angel shall begin to sound, the mystery of God shall be finished. This is not the mystery of the church, for that was finished by the taking out of the church in chapter 4. That mystery was unknown to the prophets. The mystery of God is the mystery of why God permitted Satan to cause the fall of man and thus bring sin and misery and death into the world. To the Old Testament prophets, God revealed the fact that in His own good time He would make clear this mystery, and when the seventh trumpet, that includes all that happens from chapter 11-15, sounds, the mystery of God will be finished, for then the mystery of iniquity will be revealed, in whom Satan will incarnate himself after he is cast out of heaven, and in his destruction, and the binding of Satan, and the setting up of the millennial kingdom of Christ, shall be fulfilled the promises to the prophets, that peace and righteousness shall reign on the earth. And when, as the result of the destruction of the earth by fire, the redeemed human race shall take up its abode upon a redeemed and restored earth, and sin and rebellion shall forever to destroy the mystery of God, or why sin was permitted to wreck this world, will be finished.
And there appeared a great wonder in heaven, a woman clothed with the sun, and the moon under her feet, and upon her head a crown of 12 stars. And she being with child cried, travailing in birth, and pain to be delivered.
In the middle of the week, 2 wonders will appear in heaven, for John is back again in heaven. The Revised Version calls them signs, that is, they are symbols of something and must be thus interpreted. The first will be a sun-clothed woman. Who does this sun-clothed woman represent? Some would have us believe that this woman is the Virgin Mary, others that she represents the church. Those who say she represents the church claim that she represents the visible or outward church, and her child represents the true church, or those who are to be caught out at the rapture. If this is true, and the child is not caught out until the middle of the week, then the church will have to go halfway through the tribulation. The fact is, the woman is neither the Virgin Mary or the church. She is Israel. We have only to be reminded of Joseph's dream. Behold, I have dreamed a dream more, and behold, the sun and the moon and the 11 stars made obeisance to me. To see the Jewish character of this woman, Joseph was the 12th star. We can easily see this clearly in Genesis chapter 37, verse 9.
And he dreamed yet another dream, and told it his brethren, and said, Behold, I have dreamed a dream more, and behold, the sun and the moon and the 11 stars made obeisance to me.
Israel is again and again compared to a woman, and a married woman, in the Old Testament.
Sing, O barren, thou that didst not bear. Break forth into singing, and cry aloud, thou that didst not travail with child. For more are the children of the desolate than the children of the married wife, saith the Lord.
And in the period of her rejection, she is spoken of as a widow.
And thou saidst, I shall be a lady for ever, so that thou didst not lay these things to thy heart, neither didst remember the latter end of it. Therefore hear now this, thou that art given to pleasures, that dwellest carelessly, that sayest in thine heart, I am, and none else beside me. I shall not sit as a widow, neither shall I know the loss of children. But these 2 things shall come to thee in a moment, in one day, the loss of children and widowhood. They shall come upon thee in their perfection, for the multitude of thy sorceries, and for the great abundance of thine enchantments.
And he spake a parable unto them to this end, that men ought always to pray and not to faint, saying, There was in a city a judge which feared not God, neither regarded man. And there was a widow in that city, and she came unto him, saying, Avenge me of mine adversary. And he would not for a while, but afterward he said within himself, Though I fear not God nor regard man, yet because this widow troubleth me, I will avenge her, lest by her continual coming she weary me. And the Lord said, Hear what the unjust judge saith. And shall not God avenge his own elect, which cry day and night unto him, though he bear long with them? I tell you that he will avenge them speedily. Nevertheless, when the Son of Man cometh, shall he find faith on the earth?
Israel is again compared to a divorced woman.
Thus saith the Lord, where is the bill of your mother's divorcement, whom I have put away? Or which of my creditors is it to whom I have sold you? Behold, for your iniquities have ye sold yourselves, and for your transgressions is your mother put away.
And finally, Israel is again compared to an adulterous wife.
Therefore the showers have been withholden, and there hath been no latter rain. And thou hadst a whore's forehead, thou refused to be ashamed. Wilt thou not from this time cry unto me, my Father, thou art the guide of my youth? Will he reserve his anger forever? Will he keep it to the end? Behold, thou hast spoken and done evil things as thou couldest. The Lord said also unto me in the days of Josiah the king, Hast thou seen that which backsliding Israel hath done? She is gone up upon every high mountain and under every green tree, and there hath played the harlot. And I said, after she had done all these things, Turn thou unto me. But she returned not, and her treacherous sister Judah saw it. And I saw, when for all the causes whereby backsliding Israel committed adultery, I had put her away, and given her a bill of divorce. Yet her treacherous sister Judah feared not, but went and played the harlot also. And it came to pass through the lightness of her whoredom that she defiled the land, and committed adultery with stones and with stocks. And yet for all this her treacherous sister Judah hath not turned unto me with her whole heart, but feignedly, saith the Lord. And the Lord said unto me, The backsliding Israel hath justified herself more than treacherous Judah.
Say ye unto your brethren Ami, and to your sisters, Ruhamah, Plead with your mother, plead, for she is not my wife, neither am I her husband. Let her therefore put away her whoredoms out of her sight, and her adulteries from between her breasts, lest I strip her naked, and set her as in the day that she was born, and make her as a wilderness, and set her like a dry land, and slay her with thirst. And I will not have mercy upon her children, for they be the children of whoredoms, for their mother hath played the harlot. She that conceived them hath done shamefully. For she said, I will go after my lovers, that give me my bread and my water, my wool and my flax, mine oil and my drink.
In comparison, the church is represented as a virgin, and an espoused virgin at that.
For I am jealous over you with godly jealousy. For I have espoused you to one husband, that I may present you as a chaste virgin to Christ.
Husbands, love your wives, even as Christ also loved the church, and gave himself for it, that he might sanctify and cleanse it with the washing of water by the word, that he might present it to himself a glorious church, not having spot or wrinkle or any such thing, but that it should be holy and without blemish.
The sun-clothed woman is described as being with child and travailing to bring forth. When was the church in such a condition? To be found in such a condition would unfit her to be the bride of Christ. Nowhere in the scriptures is it intimated that the church is ever to be a mother. But it is so prophesied of Israel. Speaking of the sevenfold privilege of Israel, Paul says, Who are Israelites, to whom pertaineth the adoption and the glory and the covenants and the giving of the law and the service of God and the promises, whose are the fathers, and of whom as concerning the flesh Christ came.
For unto us a child is born, unto us a son is given, and the government shall be upon his shoulder, and his name shall be called Wonderful Counselor, the Mighty God, the Everlasting Father, the Prince of Peace. Of the increase of his government and peace there shall be no end, upon the throne of David, and upon his kingdom, to order it, and to establish it with judgment and with justice from henceforth even for ever. The zeal of the Lord of hosts will perform this.
Before the promised heir could be born, Israel had to pass through many sore afflictions and judgments. These were her travail time. there can be no question but what the sun-clothed woman represents Israel. That this woman represents Israel is evident for various reasons. 1. The place in prophecy is Israelitish. The two witnesses have been stationed at Jerusalem, where temple worship is again going on. 2. The words sun, moon, and stars immediately remind us of Joseph's dream, Genesis 37:9. Behold, the sun and the moon and the 11 stars made obeisance to me. A forecast of Israel in the last days. 3. The church cannot be spoken of in this language, for she was chosen before the foundation of the world, and her glory is not at all describable in terms of this present creation. She has union with him who has gone far above all the heavens, whereas this woman's connection is plainly with what we call the solar system, that is, as viewed from Earth. 4. That she is clothed with the sun, with the moon under her feet, and on her feet and on her head a 12-star crown indicates the subjection of earth to her governmental glory. The splendor and fullness of governmental glory, the splendor and fullness of governmental authority on earth belong by God's sovereign appointment to Israel, and the restoring of the kingdom to Israel under Christ is the subject before us in this part of the Revelation. 5. Israel is described in the prophets as travailing in birth. The church never is.
But thou, Bethlehem Ephratah, though thou be little among the thousands of Judah, yet out of thee shall he come forth unto me, that is to be ruler in Israel, whose goings forth have been from of old, from everlasting. Therefore will he give them up, until the time that she which travaileth hath brought forth. Then the remnant of his brethren shall return unto the children of Israel.
For unto us a child is born, unto us a son is given. And the government shall be upon his shoulder, and his name shall be called Wonderful, Counselor, the Mighty God, the Everlasting Father, the Prince of Peace. Of the increase of his government and peace there shall be no end, upon the throne of David, and upon his kingdom, to order it, and to establish it with judgment and with justice, from henceforth even forever. The zeal of the Lord of hosts will perform this.
Therefore the Lord himself shall give you a sign. Behold, a virgin shall conceive and bear a son, and shall call his name Emmanuel.
6. Israel, not the church, gave birth to Christ, and in no possible sense did the church do so.
But thou, Bethlehem Ephratah, though thou be little among the thousands of Judah, yet out of thee shall he come forth unto me, that is to be ruler in Israel, whose goings forth have been from of old, from everlasting. Therefore will he give them up, until the time that she which travaileth hath brought forth. Then the remnant of his brethren shall return unto the children of Israel.
For it is evident that our Lord sprang out of Judah, of which tribe Moses spake nothing concerning priesthood.
7. It is very evident, and it is most important to recognize that this woman's real history is on earth, persecuted by the enemy. 8. The subsequent earthly history, as is clear in Revelation 12 of this very woman, corresponds exactly with what other prophets tell us concerning the trouble of Israel in the last days. 9. The period of that trouble, as we see in Revelation 12:6, coincides also with the last of Daniel's 70th week, the great tribulation of 3½ years.
And there appeared another wonder in heaven, and behold, a great red dragon, having 7 heads and 10 horns, and 7 crowns upon his heads. And his tail drew the 3rd part of the stars of heaven, and did cast them to the earth. And the dragon stood before the woman which was ready to be delivered, for to devour her child as soon as it was born.
The second wonder that will appear in heaven will be a great red dragon. We are not left in doubt as to who is meant. For in verse 9 he is called that old serpent, the devil, and Satan. His color is red, the color of blood, for he was a murderer from the beginning.
Ye are of your father the devil, and the lusts of your father ye will do. He was a murderer from the beginning, and abode not in the truth, because there is no truth in him. When he speaketh a lie, he speaketh of his own, for he is a liar and the father of it.
James O. Combs observes, another wonder in heaven, allosemeion and to Urano, a great red dragon, Draconmegus. The Greek word is found only in Revelation 13 times, and 8 of those times in this chapter, meaning serpent, dragon, or sea monster, Forster, the key image for Satan in the whole book. See Genesis 3:14 as regards serpent. Diabolos means slanderer, accuser, and devil appears 38 times in the New Testament. Satanas, or adversary, occurs 36 times. Draken first is used here in all of Scripture for Satan, indicating his fierce and ravenous character. He has 7 heads and 10 horns, and upon his heads are 7 crowns. These are the emblems of the universality of his earthly dominion and typify the 7-fold perfection of his power, for he is the prince of the powers of the air and the prince of this world.
Put on the whole armor of God, that ye may be able to stand against the wiles of the devil. For we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of the darkness of this world, against spiritual wickedness in high places. Wherefore, take unto you the whole armor of God, that ye may be able to withstand in the evil day, and having done all, to stand.
Now is the judgment of this world. Now shall the prince of this world be cast out. And I, if I be lifted up from the earth, will draw all men unto me.
Hereafter I will not talk much with you, for the prince of this world cometh, and hath nothing in me.
Nevertheless, I tell you the truth. It is expedient for you that I go away. For if I go not away, the Comforter will not come unto you. But if I depart, I will send him unto you. And when he is come, he will reprove the world of sin, and of righteousness, and of judgment. Of sin, because they believe not on me. Of righteousness, because I go to my Father, and ye see me no more. Of judgment, because the prince of this world is judged.
As such, Jesus did not dispute his claim when in the wilderness temptation he offered him the kingdoms of this world and the glory of them.
And Jesus, being full of the Holy Ghost, returned from Jordan, and was led by the Spirit into the wilderness, being 40 days tempted of the devil. And in those days he did eat nothing, and when they were ended he afterward hungered. And the devil said unto him, If thou be the Son of God, command this stone that it be made bread. And Jesus answered him, saying, It is written, that man shall not live by bread alone, but by every word of God. And the devil, taking him up into an high mountain, showed unto him all the kingdoms of the world in a moment of time. And the devil said unto him, All this power will I give thee, and the glory of them, for that is delivered unto me, and to whomsoever I will I give it. If thou therefore wilt worship me, all shall be thine. And Jesus answered and said unto him, Get thee behind me, Satan, for it is written, Thou shalt worship the Lord thy God, and him only shalt thou serve. And he brought him to Jerusalem, and set him on a pinnacle of the temple, and said unto him, If thou be the Son of God, cast thyself down from hence. For it is written, He shall give his angels charge over thee, to keep thee, and in their hands they shall bear thee up, lest at any time thou dash thy foot against a stone. And Jesus answering said unto him, It is said, Thou shalt not tempt the Lord thy God. And when the devil had ended all the temptation, he departed from him for a season.
Let us consider how this being Satan is represented as a red dragon. His 7 heads, 10 horns, and crowns associate him with the beast out of the sea of the first verse of the chapter 13. The only difference being that the dragon's crowns are on his heads, while those of the beast are on his horns, and therefore differ in number. These features, common to both, reveal the fact that there is some relation between the dragon and the beast, and that the beast is an earthly embodiment or incarnation of the dragon. For the beast does not appear on the earth until after the dragon is cast out of heaven. Though the Antichrist exists from the beginning of the week, he does not become the beast until in the middle of the week, Satan is cast out of heaven and incarnates himself in him. Then the Antichrist breaks his covenant with Israel, desecrates the temple, and becomes the satanic person that rallies during the last half of the week. The stars of heaven attached to his tail reveal the fact that Satan will take with him in his expulsion from heaven a third of the angels, for the angels are spoken of as stars in the Old Testament, as we see in the book of Job 38:7. We take special note here how these angels will be cast with him into the earth. They will not likely be visible to us, perhaps, and then perhaps they will, but they will secretly sow the seeds of rebellion, and ultimately they will be cast down with Satan into the lake of fire, which has been actually prepared for them from the beginning. See the Gospel of Matthew chapter 25:41 for more information. While we are not yet told how that Satan's angels are cast down being bound with him into the bottomless pit, yet the inference is that they are, for during the millennium they do not appear to be present upon the earth anymore. John tells us that the dragon stood before the sun-clothed woman ready to devour her child as soon as it was born. It is intensely interesting reading to trace in the scriptures the story of Satan's efforts to prevent the birth of the man-child Christ, and then after his birth to destroy him before he could reach the cross and purchase man's redemption. As soon as Satan had accomplished the fall of Adam and Eve, he found himself under the curse of God and was told that the seed of the woman should bruise his head, as we clearly are told in Genesis chapter 3, verses 14 and 15. This aroused the enmity of Satan, and he determined to prevent the birth of the promised seed, or if that were not possible, to destroy the seed after birth. So as soon as Abel was born, from whom the promised seed was to come, Satan schemed for his destruction and finally got his brother Cain to kill him. Then the sons of God, which we know to be the fallen angels, doubtless at Satan's instigation, married the daughters of men, Cainites, and their sin and the character of their offspring moved God to destroy mankind from off the earth. This was what Satan planned for, and would have been a victory for Satan and a defeat for God. Did the offspring look something like this? There has apparently never been any archaeological discoveries of half-man, half-goat or half-man, half-horse, but these offspring seem to have unusual features. The worldwide flood may have destroyed all traces of these if they actually existed at one time. God decided to spare the race and begin over again with a representative man, Noah. But it was not long before Noah planted a vineyard and drank himself drunk with the wine therefrom. The result, the curse of Canaan, the son of Ham, Genesis 9:18-27. Then the people began to multiply, and Satan filled their heart with pride and presumption, and they rose and built the Tower of Babel. The result, the confusion of tongues, and the unity of the race broken up. Genesis 11:1-9. Then the Lord called Abraham, and the fight narrowed down to his seed. Abraham was 75 years old and had no children, and Sarah his wife was 65 years of age and barren. Genesis 16:1. Doubtless Satan laughed at the situation because of Sarah's barrenness, in which probably he had a hand, but to show Satan that he could work a miracle if necessary to produce the promised seed, God waited until Sarah was past age, until she was 90 years old, Genesis 17:17, and then he caused her to conceive and bear the promised seed, Genesis 18:9-15, 21:1-3. It is noted here that there is no reference in Scripture where Satan had a part in the barrenness of a woman. Sarah's barrenness was used by God to test their faith. When Isaac was about 12 years of age, God prepared to test Abraham by commanding him to offer up Isaac as a sacrifice upon Mount Moriah. It is important to note that there is no record that Satan had a hand in Abraham offering Isaac as a sacrifice. Some assume that Satan had planned that Abraham would actually slay his son, and Satan would have accomplished the slaying of the precious seed of promise. If Satan did have a plan for Isaac's destruction, we must acknowledge that the plan failed, for when God saw that Abraham was willing and ready to slay his son, he intervened and spared his life. When Isaac grew up and married Rebekah, Satan, to prevent her having offspring, caused her to be barren, but Isaac prayed and God heard his prayer, Genesis 25:20-21, and twins were born. It is important to note that There is no record of Satan having a part in the barrenness of Rebekah. God allowed her to wait a few years to allow Isaac to get to the age where his eyesight would fail and he could be deceived by Jacob. God did not cause the deception, but he did allow it. Then Satan, when Jacob and Esau had grown older, Satan evidently was able to stir up enmity between the two men, thereby likely hoping that the tragedy of Cain and Abel would be repeated, and Jacob, through whom Christ was to come, would be slain by his brother Esau. When the time came for Moses to be born, Satan put it into the heart of Pharaoh to order that all male Hebrew children should be destroyed at birth, his purpose being to destroy the male line of descent altogether. But his plan was frustrated by a baby's tear.
And the daughter of Pharaoh came down to wash herself at the river, and her maidens walked along by the river's side. And when she saw the ark among the flags, she sent her maid to fetch it. And when she had opened it, she saw the child, and behold, the babe wept. And she had compassion on him, and said, "This is one of the Hebrews' children." Then said his sister to Pharaoh's daughter, "Shall I go and call to thee a nurse of the Hebrew women, that she may nurse the child for thee?" And Pharaoh's daughter said to her, "Go." And the maid went and called the child's mother. And Pharaoh's daughter said unto her, "Take this child away, and nurse it for me, and I will give thee thy wages." And the woman took the child, and nursed it. And the child grew, and she brought him unto Pharaoh's daughter, and he became her son. And she called his name Moses, and she said, "Because I drew him out of the water." And the daughter of Pharaoh came down to wash herself at the river, and her maidens walked along by the river's side. And when she saw the ark among the flags, she sent her maid to fetch it. And when she had opened it, she saw the child, and behold, the babe wept. And she had compassion on him, and said, "This is one of the Hebrews' children." Then said his sister to Pharaoh's daughter, "Shall I go and call to thee a nurse of the Hebrew women, that she may nurse the child for thee?" And Pharaoh's daughter said to her, "Go." And the maid went and called the child's mother. And Pharaoh's daughter said unto her, "Take this child away, and nurse it for me, and I will give thee thy wages." And the woman took the child, and nursed it. And the child grew, and she brought him unto Pharaoh's daughter, and he became her son. And she called his name Moses, and she said, "Because I drew him out of the water."
And so it went on until at the death of King Jehoshaphat, his son Jehoram slew all his brethren with the sword, thus reducing the seed royal down to one life. But Jehoram had children. Then the Arabians slew all his children but one, Ahaziah the youngest. But Ahaziah had children. These in turn were slain by Athaliah, his mother, doubtless at the instigation of Satan. She thought she had slain them all, but God interposed and rescued the infant son at the hands of his aunt, who hid him in the temple. And for 6 years, all the hopes of God's people as to the promised seed rested on that infant's life. During the captivity, Satan tried to destroy the whole Hebrew nation at the hands of Haman, but a very little thing, a king's sleepless night, frustrated that plan. The story may be found in the book of Esther. At last the promised seed was born. Then Satan, failing to prevent his birth, determined to destroy him before he could reach the cross. To that end he prompted Herod, through jealousy and fear, to slay all the male children at Bethlehem under 2 years of age. But Joseph, warned of God in a dream, had fled with the infant Christ to Egypt. When Christ entered on his ministry, Satan met him in the wilderness and suggested that he throw himself from the pinnacle of the temple. Foiled in that, Satan sought Christ's life by getting his own townspeople to attempt to cast him over a precipice. Luke 4:29. The 2 storms on the Sea of Galilee were but attempts of Satan to destroy Christ. You cannot rebuke a thing, you can only rebuke a person, and when Christ rebuked the winds and the sea, he rebuked the person Satan, who had caused their disturbance. This, of course, can be found written in the Gospel of Matthew chapter 8, 24-27. Then Satan renewed the fight through priests and Pharisees until he succeeded at last in getting one of Christ's own disciples, Judas, to sell his master. Then amid the shades of Gethsemane, through physical exhaustion, he sought to kill Christ. And when he at last succeeded in having Christ crucified through the agency of Pilate, he thought he had conquered. But to be doubly sure, he took good care to have the place of burial sealed and guarded. But when Christ rose from the dead, Satan's rage knew no bounds. In all probability, Satan and his angels contested the ascension of Christ, so only thus can we account for the necessity of his going up 10 days before Pentecost, that he might have ample time, convoyed by 12 legions of angels, for any battle of the clouds that Satan might attempt. The history of the Christian church is but one long story of the irrepressible conflict between Satan and God's people. Paul, writing to the Thessalonians, said, "We would have come unto you, even I, Paul, once and again, but Satan hindered us." 1 Thessalonians 2:18. And now as the time draws nigh for Christ to receive the kingdom, which means that he will come back to the earth, and that Satan's power and dominion over the earth shall cease, and Satan be bound for 1,000 years, Satan, filled with wrath, will oppose his return with his armies, and there will be war in heaven.
And she brought forth a man-child, who was to rule all nations with a rod of iron. And her child was caught up unto God, and to his throne. And she brought forth a man-child, who was to rule all nations with a rod of iron. And her child was caught up unto God, and to his throne.
Those who claim that Christ and the church together constitute the man-child, because in the message to the church at Thyatira, the promise to the overcomers is that they shall rule the nations with a rod of iron, which refers to the church age covering the years from AD 606 until the year 1520. In other words, the overcomers of the Thyatiran church period shall hold some prominent ruling power with Christ in the millennial kingdom. Forget that this promise is not to the church as a whole. As the result of her travail, the sun-clothed woman brought forth a man-child who was to rule the nations with a rod of iron. There can be no question as to who is meant by the man-child. He is Christ. The second psalm settles that, "Ask of me, and I shall give thee the heathen for thine inheritance, and the uttermost parts of the earth for thy possession. Thou shalt break them with a rod of iron, thou shalt dash them in pieces like a potter's vessel." The man-child cannot be the church, as some claim, because the man-child is caught up to the Father's throne, where he is now seated, while the church, which is not as yet caught up, is to be caught up to Christ in the air. 1 Thessalonians 4:17.
For if we believe that Jesus died and rose again, even so them also which sleep in Jesus will God bring with him. For this we say unto you by the word of the Lord, that we which are alive, and remain unto the coming of the Lord, shall not prevent them which are asleep. For the Lord himself shall descend from heaven with a shout, with the voice of the archangel, and with the trump of God. And the dead in Christ shall rise first. Then we, which are alive and remain, shall be caught up together with them in the clouds, to meet the Lord in the air. And so shall we ever be with the Lord. Wherefore, comfort one another with these words.
Those who claim that Christ and the church together constitute the man-child, because in the message to the church at Thyatira, the promise to the overcomers is that they shall rule the nations with a rod of iron. Forget that this promise is not to the church as a whole, but only to the overcomers of the Thyatiran church period, which takes place between 606 and 1520 AD. In other words, the overcomers of the Thyatiran church period shall hold some prominent ruling power with Christ in the millennial kingdom.
And the woman fled into the wilderness, where she hath a place prepared of God, that they should feed her there 1,260 days.
Here's where many interpreters of this chapter have been led astray. They have supposed that the woman flees into the wilderness immediately after the birth of her child, and because the time of her flight is in the middle of the week, for the 1,260 days of her preservation in the wilderness corresponds with the last half of the week, they cannot see how her child can be Christ. For Christ was born and caught up to his Father's throne centuries ago, while this event is still future. But they overlook the fact that between the 5th and 6th verses of this chapter, the present church period comes in. Between these verses, the gap between the 69th and the 70th week of Daniel's 70 weeks is found. The 5th verse describes the birth of Christ and his ascension, and then John jumps over the gap and describes in the 6th verse the flight of the woman Israel into the wilderness to escape from the Antichrist. The reason for this is that John is not dealing here with the church and having introduced the woman and her child to account for the dragon's wrath against her because he did not succeed in destroying her child, Christ, when he was born. John jumps over the gap that he may again take up God's dealing with Israel. The flight of the woman is mentioned here by anticipation, for she does not flee until after the war in heaven. Does Israel, the woman, flee to Petra? Here is evidence that the sun-clothed woman is not the Virgin Mary, for she does not flee into Egypt as Joseph and the Virgin did. Rather, she flees into the wilderness. Neither does she flee with her child. If it were focusing upon Mary and Joseph fleeing into Egypt to escape the slaughter of the children under 2 years of age, then her child would be with her in the wilderness. Where is her child? Clearly, the child is no longer with her. We are clearly informed that her glorious child has been taken away from her and caught up to the throne of God. Neither does she flee for her child's protection, as is true in the main point in the gospel story, but obviously she is fleeing from the dragon for her own safety. From this passage we learn that Christ's millennial rule will be autocratic, for he shall rule over the nations with a rod of iron. This does not signify that his rule will be tyrannical. It simply means that his will shall be supreme. We cannot imagine Christ's rule to be other than a rule of love. Politics will have no place in the government. The masses will not be oppressed by those in power. Equal rights will be accorded to everyone, and every man shall sit under his own vine and fig tree.
And there was war in heaven. Michael and his angels fought against the dragon, and the dragon fought and his angels, and prevailed not. Neither was their place found any more in heaven. And the great dragon was cast out, that old serpent called the devil, and Satan, which deceiveth the whole world. He was cast out into the earth, and his angels were cast out with him.
And I heard a loud voice saying in heaven, Now is come salvation, and strength, and the kingdom of our God, and the power of his Christ. For the accuser of our brethren is cast down, which accused them before our God day and night. And they overcame him by the blood of the Lamb, and by the word of their testimony. And they loved not their lives unto the death.
Therefore rejoice, ye heavens, and ye that dwell in them. Woe to the inhabitants of the earth and of the sea! For the devil is come down unto you, having great wrath, because he knoweth that he hath but a short time.
The war in heaven is started by the attempt to expel the dragon and his angels from the heavenlies. That the dragon, Satan, and his angels were not cast out of heaven at the time of his rebellion, which antedates the present earth, and confined in some prison house is clear, for he was at liberty to visit the Garden of Eden and tempt Adam and Eve, and he had access to God in heaven in the days of Job, about 2,000 years before Christ, as we can see in the book of Job, 1:1-2:8, and he was free to visit the earth in Christ's day and tempt him in the wilderness, and later to sift Peter. His origin is more or less shrouded in mystery, but one thing is certain: he is a created being, and that of the most exalted type. He was before his rebellion the anointed cherub that covereth, that is, he was the guardian or protector of the throne of God. He was perfect in all his ways from the day that he was created until iniquity was found in him. In him was the fullness of wisdom and the perfection of beauty, but it was his beauty that caused the pride, as is revealed to us in the epistle of 1 Timothy 3:6, and that was his downfall. He was clothed in a garment that was covered with the most rare and precious gems, the sardius, topaz, diamond, beryl, onyx, jasper, sapphire, emerald, carbuncle, all woven in with gold. He dwelt in Eden, the garden of God. This probably refers not to the earthly Eden, but to the paradise of God on high, for Satan dwelt on the holy mount of God. All this we learn from Ezekiel 28:11-19, where the prophet has a foreview of the Antichrist under the title of the King of Tyrus. And as Antichrist, when he becomes the beast, is to be an incarnation of Satan, the prophet here describes Satan's original glory from which he fell, for there has never as yet been such a king of Tyrus as here described. The cause of Satan's rebellion or fall is given in Isaiah 14:12-20. He is there called Lucifer, son of the morning. This was his glorious title when he was created, and this world of ours was made, at which time the morning stars, probably other glorious created ruling beings like himself, sang together, and all the sons of God, angels, shouted for joy, the book of Job 38:7. It is well to note that the one here called Lucifer in verse 4 of Isaiah 14:4, also called the king of Babylon. As there never has been a king of Babylon like the one here described, the description must be that of a future king of Babylon. And as Antichrist is to have for his capital city Babylon rebuilt, this is probably a foreview by the prophet of Antichrist as indwelt by Lucifer, Satan, in that day when he shall be king of Babylon and also king of Tyrus. The common notion is that Satan and his angels are imprisoned in hell. This is not true. The angels described in the second epistle of Peter 2:4 and also the epistle of Jude verse 6 as having left their first estate and being reserved in everlasting chains under darkness are not Satan's angels. They are a special class of angels spoken of as sons of God, whose sin of marrying the daughters of men caused the flood, which we are clearly told in the book of Genesis chapter 6, verses 1 through 8, although you usually will not hear this taught in the churches. I suppose because they really do not know what to make of it or are somewhat afraid to go there. They are the spirits in prison of whom Peter speaks in his first epistle in chapter 3, verse 18 through 20. They are now confined in Tartarus, awaiting the great white throne judgment, according to Jude in verse 6, as the book of Revelation that we are studying in this message is a prophecy of things to come, which things would have definitely been to be sometime in the future back in the day of the Apostle John. This biblical prophecy comes right out and declares that Satan was still in the heavenlies at the time that John wrote this amazing book, authored around 96 or 98 AD.
Cloaked in sunlight, crowned with stars, 12 lights shine out from her head. With the moon beneath her feet, she stands above the trembling earth. There's a cry, new life disrupts the silence. Both pain and promise eclipses hope. The sign unfolds, the heavens tremble. A force unseen begins to woman crowned in the heavens, hold your ground, the dragon waits below. Life and fear coiled in the shadows, but hope escapes to realms aglow. Crimson scales, crowns of gold, serpentine, fierce and old. 7 heads waiting in fury, trying to claim her story. But the child, caught in the torrent, rises high, safe and honored, carried beyond the dragon's grasp, lifted to the throne of wrath. Woman crowned in the heavens. before the dawn. Heaven trembles as the stars shine on. Windows assemble, light and flame. Echoes thunder as the foes are named. Michael's horn, a clarion cry. Dragons gathering in the midnight sky. Swords are drawn, halos gleam. Destiny meeting in a waking dream. War in heaven, fire and thunder. Angels rise while the dragons fall under. Eternal night meets a vision so bright. Here on the ledge of the end and the light won. Fate divided, Satan cast down. The heavens decided, no place for evil in the sky. Down to the earth, let the fallen fly. Lightning knocks from the angels' wings. Voices soar and creation sings. Broken scales scattered in the void. The old illusions are destroyed. Dragons roaring, shadows whirl. Wings of flame and a celestial swirl. Michael stands, sword held high. Defenders of grace in the endless sky. War in heaven, fire and thunder. Angels rise while the dragons fall under. Eternal night meets a vision so bright. Here on the ledge of the end and the light. War in heaven, fate divided. Satan cast down, the heavens decided. No place for evil in the sky. Down to the earth, let the fallen fly. The stars bear witness to the fight. Crimson wings and shining white. One last breath before the fall. The vanquished leave the hallowed War in heaven, fire and thunder. Angels rise while the dragons fall under. Eternal night meets a vision so bright. Here on the ledge of the end and the light. War in heaven, fate divided. Satan cast down, the heavens decided. No place for evil in the sky. Down to the earth, let the fallen fly. Now peace returns, the light remains. Cloaked in sunlight, cloaked in sunlight, cloaked in sunlight, cloaked in
In the silence before the dawn, heaven trembles as the stars shine on. Winged hosts assemble, light and flame, echoes thunder as the foes are named. Michael's horn, a clarion cry, dragons gathering in the midnight sky. Swords are drawn, halos gleam, destiny meeting in a waking dream. War in heaven, fire and thunder, angels rise while the dragons fall under. Eternal night meets a vision so bright, here on the ledge of the end and the light. War in heaven, fate divided, Satan cast down, the heavens decided. No place for evil in the sky, down to the earth, let the fallen fly. Lightning knocks from the angel's wings, voices soar and creation sings. Broken scales scattered in the void, the old illusions are destroyed. Dragons roaring, shadows whirl, wings of flame in a celestial swirl. Michael stands, sword held high, defenders of grace in the endless sky. War in heaven, fire and thunder, angels rise while the dragons fall under. Eternal night meets a vision so bright, here on the ledge of the end. reigns. But scars endure where darkness reigns. A story carved above the blue. Heaven stands, the dawn breaks through.
Cloaked in sunlight, cloaked in sunlight, cloaked in sunlight, cloaked in cloaked in sunlight, cloaked in sunlight, cloaked in sunlight, cloaked in sunlight. Cloaked in sunlight, 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 cloaked in